Well, when I needed fabric for my 1972 Oldsmobile Delta 88 convertible, they just don't make kits for a car like that, so I turned to the one place that I knew that would have what I needed, and that's SMS Auto Fabrics in Canby, Oregon. And on the line with us right now, our next guest on Classic Car Garage is Doug Pollock. He's the owner of SMS Auto Fabrics. Doug, welcome to our program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about SMS Auto Fabrics. I mean, you have the world's largest inventory of cloth and vinyl and so forth. How did all this get started?
In 1977, I had an auto repair business that catered sort of to old cars, and I was in Portland, close to the port of Portland. At that time, a lot of guys from Europe, particularly Sweden and those Scandinavian countries, come into my shop because I was the last shop before the Port of Portland, and they'd be bringing in their classic cars for fairly major repairs and then put them in containers at the port and ship them over to Europe. So every guy that came in, I'd hand him a business card and say, if you ever need anything, let me know. And so we started selling them bumpers and taillights and engines, I mean, you name it. But the one thing they started consistently to ask for that I really didn't have much knowledge about was the auto upholstery. And one day I was talking to a father of one of my friends, and he was asking me what I was doing. I told him, and I said, yeah, but the one thing that's eluding me is all these fabrics for these old cars because I think there's a business there. He goes, oh, you should go downtown and talk to this guy at Western Seat Cover. They used to have a bunch of that stuff, and it was upstairs in an old building. And I didn't do it right away, but eventually I did. They had a bunch of old fabrics, and I recognized what my European buddies wanted, and I started buying a little of it. And eventually that turned into buying all of it. Once I had that inventory, other people just started coming out of the woodwork with their inventories. And I got stuff too. And I ended up, the next purchase was in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Next big purchase was in Fort Worth, Texas. And it just kept snowballing from there, multiple purchases, and most of them fairly good size, year after year after year after year.
You literally have thousands of different selections there for people. How much of it is really kind of like new old stock, or do you make a lot of it?
It's probably at this point 80% new old stock and 20% stuff that we make. I guess about 20 years ago, we found that certain fabrics, your 57 Chevy fabrics, your 59 Cadillac fabrics, a lot of the Ford fabrics, just you couldn't find new old stock anymore. And at that point it was, well, gee, these people still want the stuff. These cars are still valuable. These cars still need to be restored. How do we go about finding somebody to weave the fabric? I got going pretty well with an organization in Pennsylvania, and they went broke, and I had to quick move all of my stuff out of there because I had to buy the equipment to get them to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much from the get-go, if I wanted something woven, I had to at least own the looms.
Does SMS sell complete seat covers, or is it all just fabric?
We really don't get into the seat cover business as a rule. We have some customers, and again, it kind of goes back to the foreign guys, who for some reason don't seem to be comfortable having the materials in hand and then finding somebody locally to sew up their stuff. So a lot of times they will send us their original seat covers and say, hey, we'll buy all the materials from you, we'll pay you the sewing fee, just get it done. And I have 2 or 3 people on the payroll all the time that can do that. I don't really advertise it much. I don't cultivate that business much, but every week we're turning out a couple sets of covers. Oddball Cadillacs, weird Packards, Fords that nobody does, Chevrolets that nobody does.
How do I know that I'm going to get the right piece of fabric? I mean, if I just tell you the year, make, and model, can you point me in the right direction, or do you need a sample?
Well, usually year, make, and model and color is enough, and the website that we have, smsautofabrics.com, will kind of lead you through it and show you what should be right for your vehicle. But a lot of times people say, hey, send me samples. And I think every day we send out at least 40 to 50 sets of samples to people all over the world. So that's a big component of our business.
Now, if our listeners go to the website and request a sample, does it cost anything for them to get that?
It's free, completely free. I mean, the joke around here is, gee, if I could just charge $1 a sample, that would be good enough business in itself.
Doug, I know that you sell your fabric and your material by the yard. How wide is the bolt that yard comes from?
Of vinyl is usually 54 inches wide, so if you order a yard, you're getting a piece 36 by 54. The cloth fabric tends to be wider, 60 to 65 inches wide. Usually the width of the cloth will stretch across the seat. That's the way it was designed.
Do you also do things like, let's say, door panels and headliners and carpet flooring, that sort of thing as well?
Headliners we make in-house. I have at least 1,000 different patterns from the 30s and 40s right up into the 70s and 80s, although a lot of the 80s stuff is really not cut and sewn. It's really more of a glued-up foam type headliner. But we've got patterns for the headliners, so we make those here. Door panels, we're constantly making door panels. I think we make 700 sets a year right now. Anywhere from 40s cars where people say, hey, we want you to make the panels, and they usually tend to be wool and some form of vinyl or leather, up into the more sophisticated 50s and 60s panels that are dielectrically heat stamped with fancy designs and sometimes chrome mylar. And so we do just all those kind of designed door panels, completely assembled, ready to install on your car.
Well, it sounds like quite a resource. I've used you a couple of times for cars that I've had over the years, and one thing that's interesting is that there's never really been a minimum order. I mean, I only needed a yard for my side door panels, but you ship that. Is there a minimum anymore?
We try to coax you into ordering 2/3 of a yard, but I can be pretty much twisted around your finger, and you can buy whatever you want.
Yeah, I usually have bought no less than a yard, but I was surprised you would sell just a yard. But you did, and like I said, for that vinyl, $40, I got enough of the vinyl, and it was the correct color, and it was the correct grain. It absolutely looked perfect in my car, so this is a great resource. How long does it take to ship the order if somebody decides to order something from you, Doug?
It depends on the complexity of the order. If it's something like you're talking about where it's a yard or two of material, we usually ship it in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a more complex order where you've got door panels and headliner and carpet sets and all that sort of stuff, leather always takes a long time because it has to be specially done at the tannery, because a lot of the leathers are metallic or special textures, special colors, and you have to make them. They're not sitting on the shelf. All that stuff takes time. Door panels in particular can take months. Everything else can take from days to weeks. And I would say that's the biggest challenge right now is in this internet age where everybody thinks they can order like they order from Amazon.
Right.
We have to make sure that people understand that we're not Amazon, and a lot of this stuff is custom fabricated by us. Takes a while, and we try to have a lot of give and take with the customers to let them know where we are in the process. We can keep most people happy. We can't keep everybody happy. We do the best we can.
Well, you've done a good job with me and everybody that I've sent to SMS Auto Fabrics. I guess, when you really think about it, a 1948 Studebaker, something like that, as opposed to Amazon, that's not just sitting there on the shelf. Sometimes you got to make this stuff. There isn't a lot of that 48 material around, but I'll tell you what, if there is a piece of fabric, vinyl, cloth, leather, almost anything that you need for your collector car, I highly recommend that you call or you contact SMS Auto Fabrics, because, Doug, you're the only place I've ever found that has really pretty much everything I need.
I think that's true.
Now, Doug, once again, tell us how people can get their sample.
Website is smsautofabbrics.com. If you want to send emails directly, you can just send to info@smsautofabbrics.com. If you want to call us, it's 503-263-3535. Sometimes we have a little bit of an intimidating automated phone system, but if you are persistent, it'll pay off.
Hey, Doug, thank you so much for spending a little time with us here in the Classic Car Garage, and best of luck to you. I'll come down and see you one of these days. I want to see that warehouse.
That would be awesome.
All right.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Doug Pollock of SMS Auto Fabrics.